You must all be wondering why there's a picture of Avengers in such a serious discussion of dengue fever. So, has anybody seen this movie? Anyone? Last year? Okay. This is a movie in which there is a team of superheroes which try to save the planet from the aliens. And that is what exactly happened in 2011 when we were invaded by an alien hospital. And then we had a team of superheroes. Heroes from every department, like health department, experts from Sri Lanka, from Thailand, from environmental department, from clinicians, and part of the superhero team was the backbone of the healthcare system, which are the family physicians and general physicians, for the first line soldiers whenever there is an epidemic in any country. So let's all join hands together as doctors and clinicians and as Pakistanis to fight this epidemic. My name is Dr. Sonia and I'm going to talk briefly about dengue infections. Dengue virus, as you all know, is on 4 serotypes, that is DEN 1, 2, 3 and 4. And they can be classified into either symptomatic patients or asymptomatic patients. The symptomatic patients, they can further be divided into undifferentiated fever, dengue fever syndrome, then there is a serious variety which is the dengue hemorrhagic fever, and then there is dengue expanded syndrome or isolated organism, which is an unusual presentation of dengue fever. Now the point that I want to highlight over here is that hemorrhage is not the differentiating point between dengue fever and dengue hemorrhagic fever. We were saying that dengue hemorrhagic fever, so there was misconception that maybe it's the hemorrhage. Actually, simple dengue infections can also present bleeding, and even if in dengue hemorrhagic fever there may not be obvious bleeding. So, bleeding is not the differentiating point, it is something else which we are going to talk about in a minute. And if dengue hemorrhagic fever, the patients will do go into shock, and then we call it as dengue shock syndrome. So if we look at the statistics, then if 10,000 patients require dengue viral infection, then only 1,000 out of these are symptomatic. And out of these 1,000 patients, only 100 patients have dengue hemorrhagic fever. The rest are either simple viral syndrome or simple dengue fever patients. And out of these 100 dengue hemorrhagic fever, their plasma leakage leads to 98 to 99 will have plasma leakage, and only 1 to 2% patients will go into shock. So if you look at the proportion of the patients who are going into dengue shock is very less. From 10,000 patients, only 1 or 2 patients going into shock. So it is not a very critical disease. People do not die of dengue fever. People only die of dengue hemorrhagic fever or dengue shock syndrome if not properly managed. So according to the case definition, we divided into probable, confirmed and reportable dengue fever. This is a WHO 2011 classification. The probable dengue fever is the one in which there is fever lasting for 2 to 10 days with two of the following manifestations: headache, retroorbital pain, myalgia, arthralgia, rash, hemorrhagic manifestations and leukemia. Thrombocytopenia, the cutoff value for dengue fever is less than 150,000 and hematocrit rise is 5 to 10%. And this is in addition to this, we need supportive serology or there is occurrence at same location and time as other confirmed cases of dengue. On the other hand, a confirmed dengue fever is a case which is in which you can isolate the virus from serum or toxin sample, or there is a 4-fold rise in the antibodies IgG or IgM, or you demonstrate the dengue antigen in the serum or CSF or autopsy specimen, or you can detect the dengue virus by PCR. So the question arises, which one of these is the reportable dengue? Both probable or confirmed cases of dengue, they should be reported. This is very important from general physicians' point of view because you are the first ones to which a patient comes. So any suspected case, you must report it to the higher authorities. The case definition for dengue hemorrhagic fever, the following 4 must be present. Fever of acute fever of lasting of 4 to 7 days, and occasionally it is biophysic, and there is hemorrhagic tendencies which can be manifested in either one of the following. Either there is a positive corneal test, particularly ecchymosis of purpura, there is bleeding from mucosa, GI tract, injection sites, blood applications, or there is frank metastasis of mania. Thrombocytopenia, that is the platelet count, cutoff value is less than 100,000 for dengue hemorrhagic fever. It was less than 150,000 for dengue fever and less than 100,000 for dengue hemorrhagic dengue hemorrhagic fever. And it can be seen either with a rise in hematocrit of more or equal to 20% or a drop in hematocrit after volume replacement treatment. And signs of plasma leakage can be picked up by X-ray and ultrasound in the form of pleural effusion or ascites. Coming to the case definition of dengue shock syndrome, all of the 4 criteria of DHF, in addition to there should be an element of circulatory failure, which you all know the patient presents a job with rapid and weak pulse, an airway pulse pressure of less than 20, is cold, clammy, restlessness, and there is hypertension. So these are the signs that you should pick up in your clinic when patient comes to you with dengue fever after the fever has settled. Because these are the patients who are candidates for going into dengue shock syndrome. The classification of DHF is DHF 1, 2, 3 and 4. In DHF 1 and 2 there is no shock, but in DHF 3 and DHF 4 there is shock. One is simple plasma leakage, DHF 2 is when there are signs of bleeding, DHF 3 is when there are signs of circulatory failure, and DHF 4 is when the patient has uncontrollable blood pressure and pulse. So I'm going to leave this one. Phases of dengue infections, there are 3 phases. We all know. First one is the febrile phase, then is the critical phase, which occurs only in dengue hemorrhagic fever, and then is the recovery of the convalescent phase. In the natural course of dengue fever, there is no critical phase, so it is the febrile phase of 2 to 7 days, which is followed by recovery and the patient heals well. The febrile phase, the key points that you should look for when the patient comes to you in clinic is the skin erythema, the flushed face of which patient extremities are flushed, hyperemic, and there is high continuous fever which should be less than 10 days. If you come across a patient who has a fever of more than 10 days, it is unlikely that it is dengue fever. So fever of less than 10 days with flushed face and extremities, and you can see fatigue either obviously or you perform a chronic test and you get a positive test. And then there is leukopenia, which is an early indicator. Before the platelets starts dropping down, the start cell count is less than 5,000 cells per millimeter cube. And these are the signs that you should look for in any patient who comes to you with acute fever. This is the tonic test. This is a very useful bedside technique that can be used to predict dengue fever and dengue hemorrhagic fever both. This is a test in which you inflate the blood pressure cuff to 80 millimeters of mercury and hold it for 5 to 10 minutes, and then count the number of petechiae in the anterior cubital fossa in a 1 square inch area.
In guidelines of the Children's Hospital, they said that after the inflation for 5 minutes, then you deflate it and wait for 1 minute, then count the petechiae.
Yes, that's right. But it was previously between systolic and diastolic blood pressure. Now they've standardized it to 80 millimeters of mercury. And when you count it, if the count is more than 10 petechiae in 1 square inch, then the test is done. It's positive. It's a very nice test which can lie on the bedside of the patient and gives you a clue whether it is a dengue infection or not. In the convalescent phase, which is we were talking about simple dengue fever, the febrile phase is followed by a convalescent recovery phase. The patient feels well, regains his appetite, and there is an appearance of a rash. This rash is different from the initial erythematous rash that appears. This is called a sea of redness with white islets. So a red background with whitish spots, and it is usually itchy, especially on palms and soles. In the recovery phase, the patients can also have bradycardia and arrhythmias in the form of blocks. So that is also a clue that can give you the patient going into recovery phase. And then the QBC count and the platelet count, it starts to rise as the patient recovers. This is another picture of the convalescent rash. Red background, and against it there are white islands. And the patient has itching on palms and soles. On the other hand, if you look at the natural course of dengue hemorrhagic fever, as I told you, there are 3 phases. The febrile phase, which is followed by a critical phase, which can start any day from day 3 onwards. And it lasts on only for 24 to 48 hours. And then it is followed by a convalescent phase, and this is the most important critical phase which But one thing that should be clear in every mind, that a badly managed dengue fever cannot end up in a dengue hemorrhagic fever. These are two separate entities, and a single EM cannot progress to EM. So difference between dengue fever and dengue hemorrhagic fever, you all know, is the plasma leakage. Headache is there, bleeding is there, leukopenia is there, platelet count is decreased. These are common to both dengue fever and dengue hemorrhagic fever. It's just that there is no plasma leakage in the dengue fever. So if there is an element of plasma leakage, this critical phase appears, then we call it as dengue hemorrhagic fever. And this plasma leakage can be picked up clinically or by rising metaphase if we look at the full blood count. If it is more than 20% from the baseline, then means patient is leaking out. And two tests that are recently being used there that can be helpful is the serum cholesterol level less than 100, or a drop of cholesterol level of 20 milligrams per deciliter, or a serum albumin level of less than 3.5, or a drop of 0.5 grams per deciliter. This gives you a clue that patient is leaking inside. Lab diagnosis that you need to do to diagnose the patients with dengue fever. Some are the confirmatory tests like virus isolation or nucleic acid antigen detection. But usually we perform these immunological response-based tests, that is IgM and IgG antibiotics. And recently we've added another test, that is the antigen test, that is the NS that we are doing with the biologics. And then there are analysis for immunological parameters like we do CBC, blood count, along with sometimes we need to do low function tests and renal function tests as well. So just a brief overview, in the initial viremic phase, you can either get NS1 detection or virus isolation by RNA. And then you have IgM and IgG. I'm not going into details of this. So coming on to the management of these patients with dengue fever. In the